this was a pipeline, Keystone pipeline protest.
This is in solidarity with the tar sands blockade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were not the organizers of it at all.
Okay. And so, you don't know who was? Okay. How did you find out about it?
There was an activist convention in New Orleans, the First People's Convention, and someone came to it who knew some people who were out in Texas, in East Texas, at the pipeline, and they were spreading awareness about the pipeline and had a teach-in here. So they had a teach-in at a coffee shop about the Keystone pipeline and the tar sands. Okay. And at that teach-in, a bunch of people got excited and wanted to have an action. So they had, and I signed up on the email list while I was there. They had a meeting to plan an action, and I couldn't go to it because I think I was at the GA. I don't know why, but I got an email later from this tar sands email account saying, there's going to be the action on November 15th outside of the Roosevelt Hotel because there's a luncheon there at the American Petroleum Institute was having a fancy luncheon at the Roosevelt Hotel, and there were people from TransAlta. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, we're going to be there.
So was this the first time you heard about the pipeline coming through? Did you guys know?
No,
you knew about it before. Yeah. Okay. So you go to this thing on the 15th of November. You guys are going to go to help the protest.
It started out, we were outside the location of the meeting, and we passing out flyers, informing passerbyers of what's going on inside the building, and there was some chalky pie going on, there was speaking, holding signs, banners, and then we went on a peaceful march around the corresponding block of the hotel, and when we got around to the other side of it, we kind of made a horseshoe around to the other side because there's two entrances to the building.
Okay.
So as we're walking down, and the God honest truth, the majority of us thought that we were just going to continue our standing outside and informing, and it turned, and everybody had gotten riled up. And we kept going. We just walked right in with our signs.
You walked into the building. Nobody stopped you.
Nobody stopped. The security guy was hilarious. His mouth was on the floor and just didn't even know what to say or anything. And so we go up the escalator. And it was impressive that we found it. We were just wandering this building up the escalators and then down through this hallways, and then all of a sudden there's these double doors open. We walk in, it's the frickin' meeting. So we stood there.
And how many people would you say are in this meeting?
15.
About.
Oh well, okay.
Not who went inside. 10, I think there may be about 12 to 15 at the most, but inside.
Of you guys. But how many in the meeting?
150, 200.
Oh, so it was a big meeting.
Yeah, it was huge.
Okay.
It ended up being incredibly well timed because as soon as we found where we were going and walked into the meeting, we strolled in with the signs or whatever. And at first, nobody even started yelling, but right as we walked in, they were done. They finished what they were doing. So immediately their attention focused from what they were talking about to boom, people talking about don't do that.
And people, one lady walked up and gave one of the protesters cheesecake.
Yeah, nobody there was offended or demanding
they were
that we
listening
leave.
to us, and then what we presume to be a security guard walks in and starts harassing us that we have to leave, and that at the bottom of the escalator there's going to be cops waiting and we're getting arrested, manhandling.
He told you this already while you were in there, that you were going to be?
He said, you guys need to leave, and somebody call 911 now, get the cops on the phone.
And everyone started to leave.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that we all began to leave immediately.
So once they told you, you were leaving.
Yeah. And he starts going off on one of our friends and pushing people down the escalator.
It was and I don't want to cut you off, but I was live streaming the entire time, and I had a press pass, and I at no point was holding a sign. I self-identified as press repeatedly, and the same man who appeared to be a hotel doorman at first, standing in front of the Roosevelt, I asked him if there was someone in the hotel who the press could speak to, if he was a hotel manager, if he, if he could direct me to a hotel manager, and he refused to say anything at all. So when we were all upstairs in the luncheon and he was manhandling people on the escalator, the problem...
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this pipeline shit has got to go.
Mr. Mike.
Hey, hey. Ho, ho, this pipeline shit has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho, this pipeline shit has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho, this pipeline shit has got to go.
Are the press allowed here?
Ho, ho.
I'm asking if the press are allowed here.
No, you're not.
The press are not allowed? Are you the manager here?
They're in the hotel.
Mike, hi. 911 has been called. 911 has been called and is requesting jail for criminals.
They came back in, that's why they called him.
He just.
Yeah, he said just call 911 so they come back in.
We are
What was the
outside now.
invitation list?
It was like oil execs and their
And
governmental
supporters,
cohorts.
Yeah, people who are, like giving money in the name of this
Okay.
cause.
Yeah, and when we were on the escalator, going down on the escalator, the man who appeared to be a doorman and security, he was using a bunch of different communication devices, maybe a Bluetooth, a walkie, I don't know, saying, call 911, and I asked him maybe 5 times on the escalator, and this is all on my live stream, clear as a whistle, or whatever. I asked him, are the press allowed in this hotel? And finally he said no.
That was the only answer he ever gave.
He didn't look at my press pass. He didn't examine my press pass and, say anything about, who I was reporting for. He just finally said no. So once everyone was out, left the hotel like they were told to, people were dispersing and leaving, and we started to leave, and there was the 4th arrestee, who's not here today, Laura. It's hard to remember exactly how it happened, but I know I heard her say, am I being detained? And I was live streaming, and I was on Global Rev, and I had a lot of people watching, and so I turned to put my camera on her because she was asking if she was being detained. And then...
We ended up in the car.
Well, first they walked off.
Yeah, they walked off.
Laura and her boyfriend walked off down the road.
Okay.
And as they were walking off down the road, a silver unmarked Charger pulled up.
A plainclothes cop.
He ended up being a plainclothes state police officer. And he got out of the car and started calling down, yelling at Lauren, yes, you're being detained, come back here, come back here. Her boyfriend made it around the corner, but she got stuck there or whatever. And then the guy who we had previously, or who we still thought at this time was a doorman, came walking across the street from the hotel telling me, that man over there is a state police officer, and he just told you to stop.
We crossed the street to get in my car.
Yeah.
And I said, that man didn't say anything to me, we're leaving. And got in the car. And as soon as we got in the car, the guy who we thought was a doorman all the way up until this time flipped out his badge. He's actually an undercover police officer.
Well, he ran up and threw himself on the car and was just like, if you back up, if you pull out, you'll be hitting a police officer, and that's a felony.
I was about to pull out.
He threw himself on the car first?
I was parallel parked. They told us to leave. We left. We got in the car. I started the car, and I was, doing that. I had backed up, so I was about to pull out of the space, and he threw himself in front of my car, and that was the first. And then I have all this on live stream. I have Nick saying, "This is the first time you've identified yourself." Right then, so then
they detained us.
I said, "I'm like, am I being detained in my own car?" And they're like,
he said, yes, you are absolutely 100% being detained. So,
yeah, it's all on my live stream. And then I asked if I was being detained in the car, and they kind of stopped for a minute, and then we were like, no.
Yeah, and you just get out of the car, and you're like, okay.
I'm being detained
we went back
in the car.
So did all 3 of you get out of the car then?
I'm being detained in the
turned
car.
the car off.
Did you go pull it back in, or is it sitting out?
Pulled out a little bit.
No, it was kind of pulled out a little bit.
I didn't.
I mean, the officer had thrown himself.
I didn't know you were Louisiana State Police.
The car was in park. I didn't want to take it out of park while this officer was throwing himself. at the vehicle and have it look like I was attempting to leave. I was afraid to pull
went
the car
upstairs
back
to
into the parking place
record it
in
as
case they thought I was going to back
a
up
journalist.
and drive away. You know,
I
I
went
didn't know
upstairs
what
to
they
record it
thought,
as a
but
journalist.
I didn't want to move the vehicle again when, you know, I was, the officer pretty much said, you know, I'm going to, if you hit me, it's a felony. I mean, we threw, my car doesn't even have a functioning bumper. It's not a good car. So we got out.
They detain us. They move us back across the street, and Laura's standing there as well. They asked for everyone's IDs. She and I didn't have one.
I were allowed to ride in the same cop car.
I've never seen New Orleans police be this nice. When I've been a victim and called 911 due to a burglary, I've been treated much worse than I was treated that day.
Yeah,
but
they are really awesome.
Like, they have to, like, you know how they have, like, they had to they even switched the handcuffs so they could ride in the same car together, because whoever cuffed who, then they realized they were a couple and, like, recuffed them. And I was still live streaming the whole time with this phone, and so they thought I was, the New Orleans police, they're trying to cuff me, and I'm holding my phone, and I'm, like, about to drop it, and I'm still live, and there were so many people watching it. And so I'm like, can you take my phone? I don't want to drop it. And they're like, you're resisting arrest. And I wasn't resisting. They were going to cuff me and I was going to break the phone. So they're like, you're resisting. I'm like, I'm not resisting. And like, I guess it looked to everybody.
So it's just shaky black screen and her going, I'm not resisting. I'm not
like,
resisting.
Just please take the phone.
And this is the New Orleans police that are cuffing
so finally they took the phone and then they were cool and they like turned it off and they turned it off.
Gave it
and
to Robert.
Robert one of our friends
Go Robert,
just showed, because I'd been live streaming and like people kind of knew what was happening, but then Robert just showed up and I mean he's this is the other thing. There were only ever 2 Occupy NOLA arrests in the history of Occupy NOLA before this day. So Robert was one of them, but like he's someone who I've been to actions with a lot, who I know like I knew I could give him my utility belt with my phones and with my wallet, you know, or with whatever, and it would be okay. And so he was really great. Like he got a tape recorder or his phone or some app. He got our names and our birthdays so they could look us up in the system.
Our time in jail would have taken far more than it did if Robert hadn't showed up. Like, that was
we have the best jail
awesome
support.
Yeah, well, because my phone, I can call my own phone from jail because I registered it so people can call, because you can't call cell phones from jail. So, I mean, I could call my own phone.
What does that mean when you register it? What does that mean?
You go on this website and register your phone number so that it can collect calls from Orleans Parish Prison and other prisons, and you pay a certain amount of money, like $25, so that my cell phone can accept calls from OPP.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're registering it for them to give it an okay, that it's a legit...
It's just you can't call a cell phone from Orleans Parish Prison. You can also, unless if you sign up for this, you can get calls.
Just seems weird, but anyway, wow. But pretty good that you did that, though.
And,
it makes it really difficult to call support for jail.
Yeah.
It's like I've had real problems with it in Florida being arrested.
Wow.
And I had told our legal team, the civil rights lawyer who has helped Occupy in the past, that I was going to this action beforehand, and that I wasn't planning on getting arrested, but I wanted to let him know that I was going to this. So he knew that it was happening, and it's interesting. If you take prescription medication, they can't give it to you.
Well, the other point to make is once we got to the jail, New Orleans Parish, there's no county jail here, so when you get locked up here, you go to New Orleans Parish Prison immediately to be booked.
Johnny Cash.
It's crazy.
Really?
I've never seen anything like that before ever. But there's people in the holding cell that I was in that had been sitting there 18 hours and they were still waiting to get booked. Had not even been processed into the jail yet. They rushed us right through to the front of the line and were yelling back and forth to each other behind the booking counter about how they needed to print out we got to get these guys right through, and we got to print out 2 copies of their mugshots so we can send one off to the FBI. She ended up with an FBI number at the top of her paperwork that none of the other 3 of us got, and they printed her and took a separate picture of her.
And I got the full treatment. They took me in, and they didn't get my name right at first, and that caused an issue in the beginning, because they spelt my first name wrong, because it's not normal. So then they had to like redo.
How do you spell your name? It's Briley?
Yeah, it's Briley, and they spelled it like Bryiley or some shit.
Okay.
They put a Y somewhere that it didn't belong.
That's how I heard about the FBI thing, because she was in the they were all in holding cells, but I was the first one who was being processed. So I was sitting up there kind of by the deputy who was talking to the woman who was going to take the mugshots, and they were trying to talk about, they were shouting to her about how to spell her name.
So it's all one big room. We're just back
they were shouting back to this holding cell across this whole row of chairs about how she should spell her name, and I had asked if I could go up there and tell them how to spell it, because I already had gotten in trouble for trying to go over by the holding cell and like talk to them. I was like, I can call Justin, you know. So I went over. So I walked up there. I was walking. It was kind of a long walk to go tell them that how to spell her name, and you know, and I hear that's when I first started hearing him say that about the FBI, and I was like, are you serious? You're not joking? He's like, no, I'm really serious. I was like, you're not joking at all. You're sending our mugshots to the FBI, and he said, yeah, absolutely, we are. And
so they pulled me back to the back. These two gentlemen put me in the back, took my mugshots, took like 2 sets of prints, and then took me out front and gave me the parish mugshot. I got a parish mugshot, and then put me back in. But nobody.
And then once
they just thought I was special.
Once we were released, for some reason, she had an FBI number at the top of her paperwork, and there's like a spot for it on all of ours, but hers is the only one that was filled in. The only thing that I can think about that is that the rest of us already have them, and they just had to give her hers.
Yeah.
This was your first time arrest?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys have been arrested before?
You
hadn't been arrested?
Many times.
No, that had never been arrested before, and it was the second arrest that I ever live streamed. Was my own. And the one other thing that happened though before they arrested us, when we were outside, when the New Orleans police had come and the plainclothes state police guy and the doorman who was an undercover, they were asking, what were they asking about, wanting to know who had organized it or something?
Yeah, somebody asked me that at some point. Oh yeah, it was the plainclothes state police officer that pulled up in the Charger, not the doorman, the other guy. Yeah, totally asked us who organized this event, who organized this. I told him I have no idea.
Yeah, and I said I didn't either. But that at one point, that was when they were deciding, like, kind of talking to NOPD about arresting us. They were asking who had organized it, and the thing is, like, they
truly don't know.
Really didn't know, you know.
It was in solidarity, but it was an anonymous action. Like, not.
It wasn't anonymous. We just didn't happen to know those people.
It was just a place you show up.
Right.
Yeah. It was.
I'm a soldier, not an organizer. So
and
I'm not worried about.
We've never. I mean, there haven't been very many arrests at our actions ever. The police have barely ever come. Really.
Right.
So it was because it was powerful people that were in the room, or
so there's 2 theories about why that state police officer was there and undercover, and the first one is it could possibly be that he moonlights when he's not working as a Louisiana state police officer as security for the hotel, which would explain why he was so.
This is the guy here?
Yeah. Which would explain why he was so hesitant about identifying himself as a police officer, because when cops do that, when you moonlight and work another job as security, you're not supposed to just, pull your cop credentials while you're on that job all the time. Like, that's not what you're doing right then. Or, the other theory is that, either our tax dollars or...
Do you know his name?
No, we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah,
he wouldn't identify himself, and whatever's on his dumb hotel uniform, I can't read it on here. I think I said his name at one point. I think it says Michael. I think in my stream I could hear myself saying like Mr. Michael. I think it was just a first name, but he's still there.
And your stream, you should send me the link to your stream so I can.
I'll send you. Yeah, I'll send you the link. To the whole write-up about it.
So he's either a cop moonlighting, working for the hotel, or coming out of the oil exec's pocket, or because the luncheon was put on by the Department of Interior. It was a government-sponsored luncheon for all of these oil execs and their.
Why would the government sponsor this? What's the government's role?
The department. That's what the Department of Interior does. Is sells our resources to private interests. That's their job. So they were schmoozing with them. So that could possibly mean that he was there as a state police officer and just didn't want to blow his cover or something, which means that our tax dollars are paying for security of the ultra rich. Again.
What do you make of the fact that they allowed you to go in the building. You had your signs?
Yeah, we were
had banners.
decked out
You had
in
your
full regalia.
signs.
There was no.
They let you go up the escalator.
Yeah.
They let you go into the room.
Yeah, you can
We went
watch the whole
3
thing.
floors
It's very
up and walked around the whole 3rd floor
So
before we found it.
why
Past waiters.
why
past
do you think they
guests.
would do that?
I think.
I think they were just off their game. The guy at the door literally was just taken so aback he didn't even know what was going on and didn't like manage to vocalize "Don't go in there" before we were already past him. And then we made it all the way up there without really seeing. We might have walked by a security guard or two even, but they didn't take notice or whatever. And once we got to the room is when that state police who looked like he was hotel security got there. Like
He wasn't the guy you passed at the door?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
He was at the other.
Because he was on the other end where we started. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he was, he did seem to be getting more and more agitated the more I filmed him and asked him to identify himself over and over again. I mean, there really wasn't that much to do. For a while, there weren't that many, there's people out there with signs, and then he's blah, 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 blah. So I was asking him, is there a hotel employee here, a public relations person to deal with the press? Can you direct me to them? Can you identify, I had my camera in his face a lot, and he didn't like it. He didn't like that at all. I don't know.
So, yeah.
And so how long were you in prison?
We were there
We got arrested at like
2 to like 9.
Yeah.
Like
It
9:30.
It really was impressive.
7 hours. That's like the fastest turnaround in the history of New Orleans Parish.
Yeah,
Like,
it is. I've never heard of it.
That's the best jail support team I've ever seen in my life. He had that bond posted 15 seconds after.
And what did it cost
but
you?
I left it dead. Yeah, I had left.
It was $200 a piece.
I had never, I don't always do this. Something made me do it that day. I had left, Justin's my boyfriend, and in my apartment, I had left on the event that I'm arrested in the city of New Orleans, and my debit card on my desk. And all the different, and the past, the links to and instructions on how to use the link to jail support for Occupy the Stage and stuff like that. But Justin went right away and bonded us, and then we could call him. I could call him from the jail because he had my phone. I actually the cops had turned my phone off. So the only number I knew my best friend from high school's phone number in Connecticut, and I know Justin's number, so I called her landline in Connecticut and was like, can you call my boyfriend and tell him that I'm in jail and ask him to turn on my cell phone? And yeah, so that was really funny. My best friend's like, oh hey, it's this inmate, are you in jail? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay.
Well, something's flashing here, so let me thank you, and then I'll try and do some things with this, but I just want to say thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. I think it's important that people understand that what goes on in the police force, these are rights that we should have, the freedom of speech, freedom to assemble. I don't think in a public place like a hotel that they should have, if they were going to do anything, it should have been at the front door.
Those cops could have been out doing something way more interesting than what we were. It was, we accomplished what we needed to accomplish in a sense by communicating that to the actual people. The reason why we were there, communicating to them that we don't like you. We don't agree with what you're doing. And also with the march, we were able to educate. While we were doing Chalkupy on the catty corny, allegedly, the people who were Chalkupying on each corner from the Roosevelt, there were people walking by who were genuinely and wanted to know what this was. So we were engaging in conversations and educating, and people were upset. So I think it was one of the better actions. But yeah, I totally did not understand why it had to be taken to that. It was
to
a
that level.
protest. There was no no vandalism. We weren't bothering anyone except that guy who didn't have his cup of coffee that morning.
And your protest is to make people aware of what's going on. So that's a good point.
Extreme abuse of
It
power.
was.
It was an abuse
Let me again say thank you to Tara Jill and to Briley and to Nick. Thank you so much, and we'll make sure your story gets told, because this has happened more than just you guys.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
It's happened to me more than once.
Thank you so much, because we've been having a hard time getting getting help with any sort of press release or talking about it. It's been kind of hard.
Well, that's what we do. We try to get the stories out to the people, so we will.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.